Boom. And we are live with another episode of the Brown Water Banter podcast. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
That's right. And we got a good show for you in the studio. We have Elizabeth. She's going to be talking to us about plastics and how they affect the Gulf of America and what we can do to help making it better, I guess is a good way to put it. And I had to pause for a second so I could read this. She is from the Mississippi State University Coastal Research and Extension Center. So we're going to dive into that conversation. It's going to be a good one. But before we do that, we want to thank the people that keep the lights on for us over here at the Brown Water Studio. Right out of the gate, Dr. Robbie Williams over at Southern Magnolia Smiles, man. They are located on Washington Avenue in Ocean Springs, right here. You can look them up on the socials at Southern Magnolia Smiles on Facebook and Instagram. 2025 is year to brush your teeth. So whenever you're ready to get those pearly whites shined up, go book an appointment with them. Let them clean them up for you, make them look good, so you can support that smile around the town. Give them a call at 228-215-1202 and tell them that Brown Water sent you. If you find yourself in need of legal representation, Taylor & Cox Law Firm has been practicing law on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for over 30 years. Tyler Cox, right there in the photo. He's at the helm now. He's running the show. They specialize in felonies, misdemeanors, DUI, family law, divorce, child custody, you name it. They're practicing in Jackson, George, and Greene County. If you know yourself, someone in your family, when you need legal representation, sometimes you need it quick. You need somebody you can count on, you can rely on. Taylor & Cox Law Firm, we highly recommend them. If you know anybody or yourself, like I said, give them a shout at 228-696-0111 and tell them you heard about them on the Brown Water Banter podcast. If you are trying to get back in the gym and get moving around again, or trying to walk, or just trying to be healthier in general, Forever Young Men and Women's Health is for you. They're located right here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. They've actually got multiple offices, at least 2 or 3 that I'm aware of. You can look up on the socials. Just type in Forever Young Men's and Women's Health. Kendrick is very knowledgeable in all things health and fitness. He's been on the show. He broke it down for us. He's full of knowledge. Their motto is bringing medicine, health, and exercise together to help men and women live their best lives. Go check his Facebook page out. He's got a lot of information there. They specialize in testosterone replacement for both men and women. If you feel like it's something that you could benefit from, which we all can, to live a better, healthier life, you can book a consultation with them by calling them at 228-363-6623. And we appreciate his support as well. And our buddy Kenny De Niro was just on the last episode here. He has a fishing tournament coming up. Captain's meeting is May 30th. The actual tournament is the 31st, May 31st and June 1st. They're giving away up to $12,000 in cash and prizes. It's the Ocean Springs Marine Mart Rock the Cock Bait Shop fishing tournament. 2 divisions, inshore and offshore. If you fish in the inshore division, it's $50 entry per angler. You can be fishing for redfish, speckled trout, flounder, or triple tail. Some of you might call it blackfish. The prizes, the payouts for those categories are $800 for first, $400 for second, and $200 for third. I hope I got that right. That is tiny on there. We got an actual poster over here, though. Let me make sure. Let's see what this is. I think I got it right, though. 800, 400, 200. Yeah, look right there, guys. I got it right there. Yeah. So anyway, that's the inshore division. Offshore, $100 entry per angler, and they're doing cobia and red snapper. He's got a bunch of different categories inside of that, what sizes and redfish sizes and stuff like that. So go to the captain's meeting on the 30th if you're going to fish it and get all the details there. Family friendly event. Saturday from 3 to 7, Sunday 3 to 6. Music. He's going to have merch. He's going to have food. It's going to be a good time. We've been down there before. It is a great time. It's located right at the bait shop in Ocean Springs. So if you're looking for something to do or something to fish, go check it out. He supports us a bunch and we support him a bunch. So we appreciate that. And so let's jump right into it. Elizabeth, thank you for being here in the studio today. We were chatting a little bit before we went live, and you are well-versed in all things plastics and how it affects the environment and the Gulf of America. So where do we start with this one? I guess what we like to do normally is if you could introduce yourself, give us your background, how you got into this, and then maybe let's start with what is the Mississippi State University Coastal Research and Extension Center, and what subset in that are you?
So I'm Elizabeth Englebretson. I've been living down here on the coast for about 11 years. I've worked for MSU the whole time.
Okay.
I originally started at the Gulf Coast Community Design Center because I came with a master's in landscape architecture. During my time there, I received a grant from the Gulf of America Alliance to pursue a project called Plastic Free Gulf Coast. And that's how I got into the world of plastics, if you will. It's how I went down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
So after that, I got 2 other grants. I moved to the Coastal Research Extension Center under Dr. Eric Sparks. I work for the Coastal Conservation and Restoration Lab.
Okay. So you were doing landscape and stuff? That's your jam? That's
not landscape architecture.
So what is that? Explain it to me.
Design. It's more like stormwater design, restoration of shorelines.
Okay. I'm thinking like residential, like designing of properties and stuff like that.
Landscape architects do that, but I don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I see landscape more as the ecological, economic, cultural spaces within which we live.
I got you. So the same, like different definition for the same term. I was thinking more like residential stuff, but that's cool. Okay, so you're doing that, and then you jump over here to the plastic side of things. I'm sure no one is a stranger. I mean, you know, if you live on the coast or you're paying attention to anything,
it's terrible.
You've heard about plastics and pollution affecting the environment, especially the Gulf of Mexico or the oceans. I know I've seen videos where they go out to certain spots in I don't know if it's the Pacific or the Atlantic where I watch, probably the Pacific if I had to guess. Plastic all as far as you can see. And they have all these types of creative ways they're trying to come up with to harvest that. But that would be the bigger plastics, right?
That is the bigger plastics. Yeah. And the thing that really bothers me is that we're always talking about how are we going to clean it up, but we're not talking about how are we going to stop producing it.
Right. There's 2 ways to approach that. Clean up what's out there, and then how do we stop doing it?
Yeah. I mean, if our kitchen sink is overflowing, are we going to grab a mop first and start mopping? No, we're going to turn the sink off.
That's right. Yeah. That's a good point.
So too much plastics coming in. Why don't you unwrap that for us? I mean, you gave us some numbers earlier, and it was crazy the number of plastics in it. It's an everyday everything you do pretty much.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Almost everything in this room is plastic or has touch plastic. Everything that I'm wearing contains plastic. So as soon as plastic is produced, it starts degrading. It never biodegrades. It degrades. And as soon as it becomes a solid resin, it starts shedding microplastics and nanoplastics. So if you think about that bottle of water that's been sitting in your truck, as soon as that bottle is created, it starts shedding microplastics, and then you add water to it, and it sits in that for months, years.
And then we drink it, right?
Or your kids drink it.
They call it leaching or something like that.
Well, it's worse than leaching. So the chemicals that are inherent in plastic are leaching into that water, but also the plastic itself, the physical microplastics, are shedding off of that into the water. So you're actually physically drinking microplastics and nanoplastics.
Wow,
that's not good.
That's not good at all.
No, it's really not good. Scientists are studying how it's linking to endocrine disorders. It's linking to autoimmune disorders. It's linking to cancers, the rise in colon cancer in people in their 20s and early 30s.
Yeah, I see that at work.
Yeah.
You mentioned the babies as well, right?
Yeah, there was a baby. They found microplastics in its first poop. So the first, poop that your child has after coming out of the womb, they found microplastics in every level of the reproductive system.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like no joke, and we don't talk about it enough. Like, I'm not here to tell people what to do. I don't care. Use a straw. That's your fucking business, right? Like, do whatever you want, but you should know. Like, you should know the reality of what we're facing as a species.
It's tough because, like you said, it's in everything.
Plastic,
when it came out, plastic was a revolutionary thing, right? We could stop making stuff out of metal. It was cost effective. It's easier to ship things in it. It's durable.
We just didn't realize what was going to happen in the long run.
I mean,
it's a post World War II industry,
right?
And so it was developed, and it replaced things like silk parachutes. Right. So now you have nylon parachutes. It replaced glass window screens on some airplanes. And so that vital miracle material. Right.
That's what I'm saying. When it comes out, it's like a miracle. It is a miracle material.
But much like Agent Orange, Dow saw a profit post-war. And so they turned it into an everyday product. It was marketed directly to the housewife. Right. Makes your life easier. You don't have to clean. It's cheaper. Saves food. Your bread stays fresh longer. And so we went from this, reuse everything, spend very little on stuff, do the best you can, to a throwaway society pretty much overnight.
And we throw away everything. I mean, we get a bag at the grocery store to put a bag of chips in there, and we throw both bags away.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's plastic.
Yeah.
And plastic's a petroleum product.
Yes.
It's the byproduct of the petroleum industry. We know that we're running out of petroleum. And so what are we doing? We're just squandering our future. We're squandering this material, petroleum, that we cannot replace, right, on things for fresh potato chips. It's really ridiculous if you think about it.
That's one of the things, like when people talk about, because I mean, I feel like everybody wants to protect the environment. We just have different opinions on how to do it, right?
And what that means.
And what that means, exactly. Yes. Where's the line? How do we do it? That type of stuff. But like my dad works in the oil and gas industry, and he would always tell me, it's like, you know, even if we went to like totally electric vehicles, which that's a whole nother discussion as to where that power comes from, because you're burning coal usually to generate the electricity. But he's like, do you realize how much petroleum is in an electric vehicle, or to make the plastics on the vehicles, to make the plastics on the wind turbines, the oil that's required in the gears of the wind turbines? Not that we shouldn't do it, but we just need to understand that it's like, it's not a, you know, it's not a, petroleum's in everything, right? Not just the gasoline that you put in your car.
And so I think, you know, the larger discussion about plastic leads to a discussion about petroleum.
Right. Really,
and
that's
how
what it is.
Dependent we are on that material. It doesn't have to be like all or nothing. Like, I never get into the debate about electric cars with people, because like, we have to find an alternative. We have to find a way. Like, our planet is dying. There is not a way to avoid that.
Yeah.
And I will never be rich enough to go to Mars.
I want to go to Mars.
No, you don't.
No.
No, you don't.
To visit? No. An expedition?
No.
You don't want to do none of that.
There's nothing on Mars. Like, we have this beautiful, beautiful planet here.
You're right.
We have such like an amazing in the universe.
But you're right.
But, you know, what are we doing? Like, you guys are outdoorsmen. Like, what are we doing? The fact that like your children may not be able to fish the same waters that you fish because of plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of everything and the weeds of everything, we got a sample right there in front of Joey's hand.
Yeah, that's cool.
Of what we're talking about. What is your, because you're obviously deep into the subject. This is what you do. What would be, real quick, right at the beginning?
Talk to people about old plastic, because it's put on the consumer to do better, right? We need to recycle. We need to be, you know, better consumers, but we have no choice. And so I ask people to recognize that it's the plastic producers that are causing this problem. What we can do as consumers is that we can make the best choices possible. So anytime we're faced with a can of Coca-Cola versus a plastic bottle, choose the can.
Okay.
Right? Just do the best that you can. Do a plastic audit. Go through, make a list of all the plastics you use every day, your kitchen, everywhere, your office. Choose one thing off of that list and change it.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that it has to cost you money. In fact, it shouldn't, because it shouldn't be bougie $90 Stanleys to be able to participate in a healthy environment.
Right.
Okay.
But that is an option.
It is an option.
That is an option.
Everybody has one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have one.
My kids got like 5 of them. I'm like,
know.
What's going on here? That's because of their mom.
Stanley used to be like the working man.
Yeah, it used to be the big coffee mug.
Yeah, like my dad went to work with that. I don't know.
Now it's all pink and bougie and all that other stuff.
Well, I mean, and that's what happens, right? It becomes this like out of touch bougie thing that other people can do, but I can't. Right. And so what are your options? You know, you go into communities where Stanleys don't exist, or people can't afford Stanleys. Like, kids are being shamed for not having Stanleys. But what the Stanley should be doing is, you know, being accessible to everyone so that we can all move away from plastic bottles.
Yeah.
And have clean water. I mean, there's so many discussions wrapped up in this. There are so many different avenues talking about access to clean water in your homes, right? People that can't drink their tap water, they're still paying for it. They can't drink it. They're spending what little money they have on bottled water. So they're poisoning themselves with plastic. They're perpetuating plastic pollution and big oil. And they're spending money that they shouldn't have to spend twice because they can't drink their tap water. So.
Yeah. And I think about it too, Joey, you like in the construction world right now, like we went from copper pipes for water in the home to plastic PEX. That's all this is PEX.
I mean, you can 3D print a house. You literally can 3D print a house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like PVC is one of the most toxic forms of plastic. And for decades, we've been using it to move our drinking water.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I found PVC being used to package food. You know, those little pretzel cheese food dip things that come in the plastic. It's got the little square of cheese.
Oh yeah.
What are they called?
Very familiar with that.
I can't remember what they're
The
called.
Walmart
Cheese
brand.
and crackers is what I call it.
Yeah, it's got a name. I can't remember.
The Walmart brand is packaged in PVC. So I just told you that as soon as plastic is created, it starts shedding.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're packaging the food, cheese food, however long or whatever that's made of.
I was going to say, that's probably not even real cheese.
It might be
either.
worse than the plastic.
Yeah, it might be worse than
It's just liquid
What is
PVC.
it? Something, what do they call it though? It's called something cheese product. It doesn't say that it's not dairy. It's not.
So then your
It tastes
kid,
amazing.
your little, because it's all plastic, your little kid goes in there and what are they eating? What are they consuming? What chemicals are leaching off of these products?
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk about cooking in plastic. Like that is a piece of, I don't know, unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
Don't cook in plastic. Don't be microwaving your Tupperware. Don't be using nonstick.
I've done it. I know.
I mean, who hasn't?
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about if you're heating a product that's already leaching chemicals and shedding.
You just speed the process up.
Yeah, I mean, there are studies linking the rise in cooking in plastic to childhood obesity because it's an endocrine disruptor.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go.
Well, I was going to make the point about it's tough because you watch these shows and, you think you're doing the right thing by recycling and whatever they're doing to the plastics. And then at the end of the show, it just says everything gets thrown into the same thing no matter what. So it doesn't matter if you're recycling or not.
Plastic recycling is a lie.
Yeah.
It's a straight up lie. Anything that says that it's 100% recycled plastic is chosen as the bougiest, cleanest plastic. A lot of times it's not post-consumer. Large corporations have direct contracts with recyclers to get the cleanest plastic to recycle because once plastic is fouled, you cannot recycle it. So any plastic I'm pulling off the beach, anything going into my curbside bin, that is not being recycled.
Okay.
I think 4 to 5% is the percentage of plastic that's recycled. 4 to 5% of the plastic that can be recycled. And that's an industry thing. That's a PR marketing thing. That recycling symbol is total bullshit. That is a way to get consumers to once again
feel good,
take the blame.
Okay.
You feel good, right? Because you're like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not polluting. But then in the end, it's getting incinerated. It's getting sent to the landfill, or even worse, it's getting sold into countries that have a lower waste system than we do. It's literally ending up in people's backyards and being chipped by your average person with no safety equipment at the river. And so as you're chipping it, you then have to wash it. You're washing microplastics into the river. Then you have to melt it.
Right.
It's dirty. It's the international plastic waste trade.
Wow. We talk about, like you talking about the recycling symbol being bullshit, you said.
It was developed by the industry.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it a lot on here with like Gulf Fresh or made in the USA food products for seafood.
Mm-hmm.
There's always these little ways to take an imported product, but then they package it
process it here.
So now all of a sudden it's considered a USA made whatever product or whatever. Yeah. So there's a wiggle room in the language, I guess, when we deal with that. So you're saying the same thing's happening in the plastic industry.
Yes, there's a canyon between the reality and what we are marketed with plastic. It's called. Have you ever talked about greenwashing?
No, what's that?
Right, it's a corporate practice of making sustainability claims about a product that is actually more like detrimental to the environment.
Okay.
So Coca-Cola is the perfect example.
Yeah.
So Coca-Cola is the #1 plastic polluter in the world, ranked by Break Free from Plastic every year, according to brand audit data.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know that I would believe that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying that strikes me as odd because obviously we saw a lot of Coca-Cola in the world, right? And it's all in bottles,
2
plastic
liters,
bottles.
plastic.
But I would think like car industry would still be able to surpass
consumer
that.
plastics.
So #1 in consumer plastics.
Right.
Okay, so maybe it's a subgenre.
Yeah,
Would exclude like car companies and.
But how many cars are you like pulling out when you're out on your charter boat, right? I'm talking about plastic pollution.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant plastic
not
producer.
production.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
sorry if I said that wrong.
No, and I just probably.
So Break Free from Plastic, I would encourage you to look at that website. They gather international plastic brand audit data from cleanups around the world, and every year they release the top 10 plastic polluters in the world. Coca-Cola is always #1.
Okay. So let's pull it in. So we talked about the plastic, but let's pull it into like our world, Gulf of America.
Yeah.
How where is the problem coming from? How is it hitting the Gulf? How are y'all identifying it? And then what is the solution that we can do?
There is
How do
one.
we do that whole path of the story?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, you got to unpack a lot.
It's a lot of it's a lot of nodes there. But
so the Gulf of Mexico has one of
America.
Don't.
I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
I'm sorry.
No.
We do it on the show all the time. We're going to continue to do it. We did it to Spraggins when he sat right there because he kept saying the director of the
Gulf of Mexico.
He kept saying it the
You
whole
mean
show.
the Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he kept saying Gulf of Mexico. We kept saying you mean America. And he brought us hats that said Gulf of America, didn't he? No, he said make seafood great again. I'm sorry. That's right. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So the Gulf of Mexico has one of the largest concentrations of petroleum and plastic producers in the world.
All right. The areas around it, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
What do you, okay.
Yeah.
The states, the shoreline around it. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. And so it is understudied in terms of microplastic pollution. Right. A lot of the plastic pollution that we're getting, we think is coming from the Mississippi River because the majority of the plastic pollution in this world comes from the 10 largest rivers. Right. So it's coming from inland. It's coming from terrestrial trash and terrestrial production.
Okay.
And it's coming down the river as well as coming from the sea.
Now, do you know the answer to this? Is that pollution? That's not just somebody just sitting there throwing stuff into the river.
No.
How is this getting there?
So nurdles are a really good example. Nurdles are pre-production plastic pellets.
Fire that off, Joey. Hit that camera. Yeah. And if you don't cover her face up, it ain't gonna work.
You can cover my face with plastic. It's fine.
Right. Hold on. You can do it, Joey. Come on. Go to the other way. Now back out. You got to back out, Joey. You can do it. I know you can.
I don't know if I could do it.
All right, I got it. All right, hold it. Don't move, Joey. Now explain to us real quick.
Nurdles are pre-production plastic pellets, so they are primary microplastic. You take those nurdles. There's thousands of different resins. They combine the resins they want, and they melt them down into all of the plastic products on this planet.
Okay,
every plastic product starts as a nurdle.
Okay, so that's what we start plastics with.
This is a seed, a plastic seed.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes. We melt those things down, and we make a bottle, or we make a whatever.
Everything.
Okay.
We make clothing. We make fibers and saran wraps and everything from nurdles. And so you're having to process the byproduct of petroleum. You have to crack those elements, add your other things to get the resins that you want, and then you extrude that.
That's polymer science, right? Yes. That's a big USM thing.
I went through one semester of that. I didn't make it any farther. And I was
like, I'm out.
Yeah.
So they extrude it like spaghetti noodles. Right. And they get the nurdles.
Right.
Well, while you're producing nurdles, they're discharging them from the plants. They're creating flake. They're creating plastic dust. So there is a group called Nurdle Patrol, which I would encourage you to check out. And they're kind of documenting and trying to address the microplastic pollution of nurdles because they're coming from the production of nurdles. They're coming from shipping of nurdles. They're shipped open on barges. They're shipped on rail cars. So Bay St. Louis is a good example of a place you can go to see a lot of nurdles.
Okay.
I found 569 nurdles, East Beach, Jones Park.
Wow.
Gulfport 2 Saturdays ago.
On the beach or what?
On the beach.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
This has got sand in it.
In an hour.
I know this came from a beach for sure.
So you can find them along the rivers, along the rail tracks, on the beach, right? They're just everywhere and they're unregulated. There was a big spill in 2020 in the Mississippi right outside of New Orleans. Nobody cleaned it up because nobody was responsible for it.
Wow.
Until activists and community members went out there and started cleaning up and started pushing. And eventually the barge corporation.
Yeah. But how much of that got swept away?
Oh, yeah.
How much of it's still there?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. Look at
dump that.
You put this in the Mississippi River, it's going to end up a chandelier. 108 block way out there.
Yeah. So microplastic for people that are listening is 5 millimeters or smaller.
Okay.
So the size of a sesame seed or smaller. We filter water for microplastics, and every sample that we do has at least one microfiber in it.
Damn.
So it's impossible, almost damn near impossible to get rid of.
Can I see that for a second?
Absolutely.
If we take this right here and I pour this into wherever, the Gulf, doesn't matter. I can see like marine life eating it. That'd be a bad thing, right?
They float. Yeah, they look like eggs.
Okay. And how else do they hurt the environment outside of that? Are they shedding the microplastics?
They are shedding. They are leaching toxins, the
Okay.
inherent chemicals that are in plastic, but scientists are finding they're also absorbing plastics, right? So they're attracting volatile organic compounds, things like car oil, DDTs. So they're attracting those chemicals and absorbing them. So they're just becoming these little
super
nasty
plastic bombs.
Right? And so when we talk about the fish eating the plastic, it's not necessarily that when you eat that fish, you're going to be consuming the plastic, right? Mm-hmm. But how long has that plastic been sitting in the fish, leaching off those chemicals that it has absorbed from being in the water, and also the chemicals that are inherent in it because it's a petroleum-based product.
Right.
So it's that bioaccumulation that gets it into our food chain.
Yeah, you catch it, fillet it, and then you fry it up, and now you're inhaling the plastic as well.
Yeah, you're
dining.
You're
you're not eating the fish stomach, right? But you don't know, right?
Right.
So it's this bioaccumulation thing. I mean, it's real. It's a dark rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Really
So production of the plastic gets into the rivers is what you're saying, because I think, like myself, and I would assume most people listening or whatever, you think of, like, you see floating bottles, you see somebody throws out trash. That's what I think of when I think of plastic pollution, right? That's
what everybody thinks of. And I'm out here to talk about plastic pollution being from the second that oil comes out of the ground. Mm-hmm. That's when the issues with economic, ecological, and human health start.
Yeah.
From that second, like, we always just think plastic is this bottle, but it's not. Plastic is so much more than that. The whole lifestyle. I talk about East Palestine, Ohio, with the train derailment. That train was full of vinyl chloride.
Yeah.
It was full of vinyl chloride. It was headed to Illinois to be turned into polyvinyl chloride, which is resin number 3. PVC.
Okay.
That's plastic.
Okay.
Right? People don't think about that. Like, you don't necessarily think about what it means to incinerate plastic, what it means to do pyrolysis, which is chemical recycling, which is happening at Chevron. Right?
Yep.
So plastic is so much more than just that water bottle. It's the whole life cycle. Mm-hmm. And we're paying for that whole life cycle.
Yeah.
Not with our health, with our future, and with our money, because we're subsidizing the entire process.
And so, so it gets from production mainly, if I'm hearing you right, production mainly gets in our rivers. The rivers drain obviously down to the Gulf, to the Pacific, to the Atlantic, wherever they drain.
Fish eat it.
Right. And so even if you go to a place and you look and you say, I don't see a bunch of trash litter around here, I don't see a bunch of bottles, or maybe I do, but if I don't, it can still be there.
Absolutely. It is there.
It is there. Okay.
Absolutely. They're finding plastics in the deepest parts of our ocean. They're finding microplastics in mosquitoes. Microplastics are coming in the snow, right? It's there.
Okay.
Like, it is everywhere.
So
it's quite shocking.
Is there, what gets rid of it besides stop using plastic? Is there any way to stop it, slow it down, besides stop putting more plastics out there? Because there's probably more out there than we can ever clean in millions of lifetimes.
And again, my brain goes back to the videos that I've watched where it's all on the surface of the water and they're developing like these skimmer techniques. And I'm like, we're doing something. Yeah. But you're saying like, that's just the macro stuff you can see.
Yeah. That's just the stuff that we can see. And that's the stuff that makes the person feel better,
right?
Like, we're doing something, this is great, and like, I believe in that work. But removal, you go to the beach, you do a cleanup, the very next hour you go out, you do another cleanup, you get the same amount of plastic. It's just like that in the gyre system. You're talking probably about the Pacific garbage patch.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
How big is that thing?
Huge.
I want to say that people say it's like the size of New Jersey.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but that is not the problem.
Right. That's what I'm picking up from you. Like, that ain't the biggest issue.
No, and that's what we always talk about.
Because as bad as that is, a normal person can look at that and go, well, we can get that out of there. We can scoop that up. We can, if we put resources to it, we can put a dent in that, or we can get rid of that. But like,
but you can't see the problem.
Shit,
you can't see the problem.
That's more scary.
Or
like
smaller
you said,
than this.
Entering into like cellular level stuff on fish and humans. That's way more scary.
Crossing the blood-brain barrier. In fish. Right.
United States is usually up on all. Upper, not up on all, but other countries
up on all what?
Have higher standards. I would say. Than China or any of that. We don't.
Depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're talking about.
If I'm dumping trash into the ocean and stuff like that.
I would agree with that.
I think it depends on who or what is dumping trash in the ocean.
Yeah,
but that's a
it's
whole
a
nuanced
conversation. But I think Joey means like on a macro level. We're ahead of India. We're ahead of on emissions and how we deal with that. We're ahead of these up and coming nations.
That have more people and produce more.
But I will never fault those nations because the petrochemical industry and the plastic industry are selling single-use plastics into those markets, fully knowing that they do not have the waste infrastructure to deal with those products.
Yeah.
They are selling. So I talk about this a lot. You go to the store and you can buy shampoo for $15. It's way overpriced, but it's in post-consumer recycled plastics. So you're like, right on, I'm doing the right thing. It's produced by, let's say, Unilever. At the exact same moment, halfway across the world in India, they're selling single-use sachets of shampoo to people because people are very poor there and cannot afford to buy a whole bottle. So every day they buy a single-use Unilever single-use sachet.
Now, what's a sachet? It's like a ketchup bag.
Bigger.
Like something you wrap.
Yeah, like an emergency or like some sort. You know what I mean? It's like about that big.
Flight or something you get at a hotel, something like that. Yeah.
Every day. And so in our market, we're overspending for post-consumer recycled plastic, which is like total bullshit anyways. And at the exact same time, they're selling these single-use products into these worlds, these nations and countries that don't have the infrastructure to deal with it, fully knowing that there's nowhere for it to go. They're undermining the picker economy in these countries where people live from recycling. People live by recycling metals and bottles and things like that.
Scrappers.
They're undermining that by flooding the market with plastic, and there is nowhere for that plastic to go, and there are no buyers for that plastic. And so they are totally wiping out an economy of people.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of a completely different kind of situation. But like whenever all the stuff went down with tobacco and cigarettes in the U.S. and we figured out, hey, this does cause cancer. I remember watching some kind of documentary where they were like, all the big companies just focused all their attention instead on the U.S. They just shipped it out to third world countries and marketed to them, and they're still making the same amount of money because they don't know over there.
Correct.
Oh, I was in Guatemala when PepsiCo was deciding that they were going to stop bottling their drinks in glass, and they were only going to sell plastic bottles into that market. And Guatemala does not have the waste system that we do, and our waste system isn't perfect. Right. So imagine what is that going to do to the environment there, to the people? Yeah,
it's lighter, it's cheaper, it doesn't break. Right. As far as a business decision for the PepsiCo, why they would do it. Yeah. Right.
I understand.
No, I'm asking.
Absolutely. I understand the business side of it. And that, I told you that this issue is connected to so much more, right? It's connected to the globalization of our food systems. It's connected to so many bigger issues, but it all comes back to this single-use wasteful society, right?
Yeah.
And our disconnection from our culture, our disconnection from really ourselves, our disconnection from our planet. Even if you remember fishing.
You remember back in the day, you used to get Gatorade. It was in a bottle, you get Coke. Everything. It was in a bottle. It was even glass bottle. You know what I'm saying?
And you could turn that glass bottle in, and you could get money back.
Right. And I'm sure you can get rid of glass somehow.
Well, there's a program in New Orleans called Glass Half Full. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but they are taking glass and using it to experiment on restoration projects using glass sand, right? They're using crushed glass to fill sandbags,
right?
Things like that. So they're looking for alternatives because it's too expensive to recycle glass.
Okay. You mentioned a minute ago, I've got a recycling bin on the side of my house, right? Paper, plastics go in there, but you're saying that doesn't really get recycled in the way that I would hope or think?
No.
How do you know the process? What can you shed some light on that for me?
We do single stream recycling, and so it goes to a MRF. It goes to a mechanical recycling facility where it's separated, which is great. Like the plastic ends up there, it gets separated, it gets baled. But after that, plastic is a commodities market. Recycled plastic, you have to have a buyer for that product. So yeah, it's baled into a size, this room all plastic, but there's nobody to buy it because there's no market for recycled plastic because it's cheaper to produce virgin plastic because there is no legislation. There's nothing holding plastic corporations accountable for that. And so they just keep making. That's how the plastic ends up in the international plastic waste trade or being incinerated. So I encourage people to skip the recycling of plastic. Aluminum, infinitely recyclable.
Yeah.
Right?
You can
And probably
back in there.
cheaper and easier to recycle, right? Just heat it up, melt it down, and
I'm not well versed on that process, but you can sell your aluminum too. Right? We do that at my office. We take our aluminum down there, right?
Yeah.
So
and even the worst case scenario, aluminum will rust eventually.
Well, if I pull a can that you threw in the water 20 years ago, I pull that can out, I can still recycle it forever and ever, right? It will become a can. Recycle, not downcycle. A lot of times when we talk about plastic, it's not being recycled, it's being downcycled. It's being turned into curtains. It's being turned into tables, right?
That's good though, or no?
No, because plastic is always creating microplastics, and there is nowhere for that plastic to go.
Yeah.
Ever. Like what happens when that table wears out?
Is there anything that we can do with this? Is there anything that we can do with these plastics here, or is it just they're here, they're going to outlive the planet, they're going to outlive everybody that's on it?
I would say that once you have the information, try to make better choices as best you can. Try to normalize experiences without plastic. You offered me water. I assumed it was going to come in a plastic bottle.
You did. She did.
Give me water in a glass.
Way to go, Joey, dumbass.
Sorry.
It's fine.
No, I'm talking about the plastics that are already here. Is there anything that we can do with them now that is not, I don't know, as bad, or everything's bad, but is there something
Are you saying like to get them out of the environment?
Yeah. Well, you can do your best to clean them up. When you're putting your trash on the curb, tie your trash bag up tight so that no plastic escapes. Stop.
But the bag is made of plastic.
Yes, it is. But I want that plastic waste to be entombed forever.
Yeah.
I want it to forever sit there until we have the technology and we have the will as a species to find a way to do something with this plastic. And I don't think chemical recycling is the answer. Right? We need to find a scalable solution. But the thing that we have to do now, we have to stop producing so much plastic. And we have to do our best as consumers to avoid it wherever we can.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we can do, because I mean, I could say, no, there is nothing that we can do about this.
Right.
And I mean, even somebody like you, that's as well versed as you are, you can't escape plastic yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You just have to do the best you can. Like, that's why I'm not coming on here like shaming anybody.
Right. Just awareness is this first step.
Because
right? Education,
I know,
awareness. Yeah.
I know. And so I can make better choices for myself, and I can talk about it, and I can do more research. I can try to understand it better, because the only way, like, it's like tobacco, right? It takes that grassroots effort, but it also takes the legislation, right? So while we're trying to catch up with the legislation aspect of it, because Mississippi actually has a ban on banning containers, but that's plastic. They have a ban on banning plastic. So municipalities, I know.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. A ban on banning. Yeah.
So municipalities can't regulate styrofoam. Let's say Ocean Springs wants all of their restaurants and all their businesses to not sell styrofoam. It's like what they did in New York City. They make it illegal. You get a fine if you're putting styrofoam out. Mississippi legislation says that is against state law. You can't do that.
Okay.
The loophole in that, though, is individual store owners and individuals can do it on their own until the legislation catches up.
Yeah. And then I think about the dang paper straws, because they suck so bad.
Paper straws suck.
They do suck. That was a bad marketing thing, right? Because that was I feel like one of the first. Everybody heard about it. Plastics are bad. Here's one of the solutions. We're going to use paper straws. And everybody's like, these suck. And why the hell did you do that?
I always joke that that's the fastest way to get somebody to go back to plastic.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Use a paper straw.
And then
it just melts. It's all in your mouth.
Tom McDonald, the rapper, we mentioned him on a couple shows ago. He was like making fun of that whole movement. And he was like, we went from plastic straws wrapped in paper to paper straws wrapped in plastic. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a false solution.
Right.
That's just
a feel good.
Right? That's I am better than everyone else because I am using a paper. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think about it. It's like, okay, so we could put the plastic straws in the paper because the water won't really hurt it that bad if it gets on it. But if you have the paper straw, let's coat it in plastic so water can't damage the straw before it gets to it.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I mean, that's
chasing our tail.
Yeah.
That's exactly. We are just chasing our tail. And it's time for us to stop and take a look at what are we actually doing? And that whole paper versus plastic straw, the politicalization
Oh, yeah.
of that.
That's what
like,
happens on any issue, you know.
Yeah,
that, right?
totally. But like, do you even need a freaking straw in the first place?
Yes, the answer is yes to that.
Yeah. So get yourself a metal straw.
Awesome.
Right?
They're killer.
Yeah, you got to
they're very much more durable.
It doesn't have to be plastic or paper, right? I think people keep thinking in these like binary terms.
You're right,
it doesn't have to be all electric cars or all petroleum. Like it's not binary choice. Like we just need to continue thinking creatively and continue innovating and developing and like recognizing like
it's funny how like the news sources keep everything in a binary, it's either this or that.
Yeah, it's cut or dry
thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that also with the rise of social media and the disconnection from sitting around the table and talking.
Correct.
You know, it's like you never get outside.
It's cool. It's cooler to argue and make you a demon or me a demon than it is to say I respectfully disagree or you respectfully disagree with me. But where is the middle ground and can we get to it? That's not sexy. No, nobody wants to see that. You know,
there be keyboard warriors that just sit there.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where we're at. There are so many different gray areas and so many different ways to approach issues but we've become this.
Yeah.
You know?
So going back to my long question earlier, so it's getting made like manufacturing's hitting rivers mainly
and
right?
oceans.
In oceans. Well, I'm hitting rivers and then getting down to the Gulf and then getting to the oceans. Once it's there, let's talk about the Gulf of America specifically, and then what you do with your organization. So what is y'all's mission? Is it education, awareness? Is it identification? Are y'all going out and testing and seeing how much is out there? Like let's keep it to the Gulf for a moment.
Yeah. So our lab, the Coastal Conservation and Restoration Lab, we do everything. We do research, we do education, we do outreach, we do direct programs. Like some of our group just got back from Florida doing restoration work in Pensacola, right, for oyster reefs.
Right.
We have PhD students studying microplastics, right? We have programs like SWAPS, which is the program that I co-lead. We go into the schools. I do train the trainer events with other extension agents to teach people about plastic and about waste. So we do everything. We focus on native plants, growing Mississippi specific marsh grasses, like genetically specific marsh grasses, native plants, and getting those into the landscape as much as possible for pollinators that support our ecosystems.
Right.
We do a ton of education.
Okay.
Like a ton of education.
With y'all are obviously Mississippi State University, and Mississippi State's very much well known for their engineering, and they have a chemical engineering degree. Do y'all ever try to fight the chemical engineering students for what they would do with the?
No, but we would win. We're a scrappy bunch.
Scrappy bunch.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just saying, you know,
sure.
you should go down there and talk to them. Like, hey,
we just talked about this. Like, I'm not here to fight anybody. Like, I'm here to talk about it. You know,
I'm just kidding.
What does the samples look like when you're going out into the Gulf? Are y'all scooping water, scooping plants, scooping sand?
So I have never been into the Gulf to do sampling, but a coworker of mine, Keely Collinger, she is a co-lead also on SWAPS. She took the NOAA cruise, which is a research cruise that goes around the Gulf of Mexico for about 2 weeks, and she spent her time about a week sampling water. And she went through hundreds of samples and also plankton samples. So they were doing different levels of like dragging nets, right? Like bongo nets and things like that, and collecting different samples of water. And she was analyzing them and picking out the microplastics and counting them.
Right.
Every sample, she tells me every sample had
that's what I was going to ask.
Hundreds of microfibers.
Is there any better sample spot than another sample spot, or it's all pretty much jacked up?
It's all jacked up.
That's what I figured.
There's an interesting film that came out. It was like 2015. It's called Smog of the Sea. It was Jack Johnson produced it, the musician, and it talks about that. And it's called Smog of the Sea because it looks at microplastic pollution.
Okay.
Right. So that's how I think about microplastic pollution. It's the smog.
I haven't heard Jack Johnson in a long time.
I don't know if I know who that
He
is.
plays the loops with the guitar.
Yeah, he lives in Hawaii. He's like a surfer. He plays
dude.
like happy music.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like happy music.
Yeah,
every now
it's
and
good
then,
stuff.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Joey's holding that.
Yeah. Let's talk about this
what's-
because y'all have more than we talked about your program. We'll get on that in here.
And real quick, before we go into this, can you break down? We did this on the USM, I believe. I asked the same question, kind of. Can you break down the umbrella? So the Coastal Research and Extension Center, that's the that's the big umbrella term for everything y'all do. And then what is underneath that?
So the Coastal Research and Extension Center is just the coastal branch of the Mississippi State University Extension, right? So we have our own extension office down here, and our lab exists within that. So we are similar to the Harrison County Extension, right? Where they just have one extension agent. The Coastal Research and Extension Center doesn't have extension agents, but they have researchers, professors, graduate students, staff doing coastal research.
Yeah. Okay. And this building's on Pops Ferry.
Pops Ferry, yeah. Right by the what is it, North Bay Elementary?
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned that y'all have some programs that people can just show up there. We need to register. Field trips and stuff like that.
Yeah, we do. So we have been doing field trips with school groups. We've done field trips with Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
You know, anyone can contact us. Like our website is ccrlab.org.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you can go on there and look at all our different programs. You can reach out to anyone that's listed on there if you have questions or you want to get someone from our group to come and speak to your group or lead classes.
Right.
We teach in high schools. We're developing an outdoor learning lab so that we can teach our community about native plants and pollinators and the importance of not hosing everything down with chemicals and of even just making squares of native pollinator plants and helping people get there. I think that's the important thing. Like, I'm not just here to tell you a bunch of stuff. Like, I want to help you make that change and move toward what you want to achieve.
Right. And you can actually, you can incorporate this in any curriculum. Like,
absolutely.
Pretty much anything. You got drones, you got all kinds of stuff in here.
Yeah. So the GRITS program is a really interesting program. They work with high school students and they are actively teaching high school students, preparing them for their drone licensure, teaching them how to trailer and, navigate boats and things like that so that they're prepared to go out into the world and get restoration jobs, technical jobs. It's a really great program. And so we do a lot of that. Like, we want people to be engaged with the Gulf Coast and with Mississippi. And we want people to see that you can have a career and you can have a future doing things like living shorelines. It can benefit your community. You can stay right here and you can do really, really excellent work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Through university,
Yeah, we've asked this with the DMR and USM. Do y'all collaborate with any of those other people on projects sometimes?
Yes, absolutely. We collaborate with anyone who would like to collaborate with us. We're always open to collaboration. We collaborate with DMR a lot.
Yeah.
Quite often.
I figured you would.
Yeah.
If you had some tips to normal me sitting in this chair right now.
You're not normal.
Well, you know what I'm saying? What is the easy, like bringing your own bag to the grocery store, using a reusable cup? What are your big pet peeves, or what can you tell people to get a good
limit
start?
Their use of plastics?
Yeah, so I told you guys earlier, do the plastic audit. Go through and make a list, take photos however your brain works of all the plastics in your world, and then choose something on that list where you want to make that change. Where it's the easiest, where it doesn't cost you any money, and you can start right now. For a lot of people, that's skipping the cutlery when you get takeout.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. And that saves the restaurant money too.
Right.
I used to work with a lot of restaurants. I would tell them, you might as well just be eating that money, because I'm going to take this cutlery and I'm just going to throw it away, or it's going to go in that stupid drawer that's going to get thrown away once a year. So you're helping the restaurant save money, and you're also skipping the plastic, right? Bring your own cutlery with you so that you can skip the plastic. Take your own bag to the grocery store. I try to do things like, I'll try to buy my spices. If I can't buy in bulk, I'll buy them in glass jars. Right? Or your mustard, right? It's a slow change. For our meetings at our office, we always use reusable dishes.
Right.
So people come to our office for a meeting, It's normally styrofoam, but you're going to get a reusable dish with a fork, right? With a real fork and a real glass. And that makes a huge difference.
Right.
So it's just doing the best you can. I mean, there's one thing that works for me that may not work for you. I don't have, 5 kids. And so you have to find a way to make it work for you so that you can make that good habit.
Yeah.
But I always talk to parents and I talk to people about, we have to normalize a life without plastic. We have to model good behavior.
Right.
Like if we want our kids or our neighbors to do different, we have to normalize that.
Is there anything you can say directly to the outdoors community, like mainly our audience, other than, hey, don't throw, bottles and trash into the waterways or into the, because you've seen that, we've all seen that. Somebody just drinking something or whatever at the island.
Well, you get your water bottle. I mean, you get baked shrimp in a plastic cup. You know what I'm saying?
So we've discussed that. My office mate and co-collaborator on swaps, he's a fisherman. And we've discussed, like, is there a way to work with bait shops to get paper containers? I have a sample of paper containers that freezes really well, right? You can keep bait in there. So I would tell people that are out on the water, bring a cooler of water. Don't bring single-use bottles, right? Try to get yourself a cooler. You can get those relatively inexpensive.
Like
most of us have
igloo
them.
Cooler. I mean, the old with the nozzle on the bottom. There's a lot of plastic in that, but I guess there's less than using the bottles over and over again.
Yeah, you're never going to live like a pure plastic-free life.
Right.
You just aren't, and so you have to baby step it down, right? Because you could invest in a big metal cooler for your boat, right? Something really nice, easy to clean. Yeah, I mean, it might, but it's not, so you're baby stepping your away from single use.
Yeah,
just so you can recognize.
And that's probably a barrier for y'all, I would assume, or anybody, not just y'all, but we're talking to you. So, but like on making the change, because I can just see myself, like if I was like, okay, I'm going to try to cut down on single use bottles, but I'm going to go to a jug or something like that. And then I look at it and I was like, well, there's plastic on that too.
Yeah.
But you're saying you're not going to get to zero. Let's just try to mitigate how much we actually use.
Yeah, because I mean, once you start making that move, once you start recognizing the behavior and making those changes, you may get to zero on some things.
Yeah.
Right. But you're going to move the needle and you're going to show people that it's possible to be out on a boat all day without a 24-pack of single-use water bottles.
Yeah.
You're going to give people a different experience.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of where we need to go. You're never going to be perfect.
Right.
You just can't be. And you don't have to be.
Right.
Like, you don't have to
do your part.
Yeah.
Just do the best you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
And recognize and know and understand plastic is more than a water bottle. Right. And so you're thinking about it. You're thinking larger.
Yeah.
About the impact on your health. Like, let's not even talk about the turtles or the environment. Think about your health.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Y'all do, thinking big, y'all do the beach cleanups as well, right? Can you elaborate on those a little bit?
Mississippi coastal cleanups.
Yeah.
So we are doing, you can do a, basically like a request a bin. So if you go to the Mississippi Coastal Cleanup website, you can request a bin and you can get your own cleanup supplies. So you can do a cleanup anytime you want to with a group. But we do have 2 major cleanups every year. We have the Star Spangled cleanup, which is the first Saturday after the 4th of July. So I think it's the 5th this year. And that's a coast-wide cleanup. And we also have the October cleanup, which is an international cleanup. And we set up stations coast-wide also. And so we have volunteers come out and we clean up the coast.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. Before we wrap things up, I did drop the Facebook page to y'all's Facebook page in the comments below. But Joey, can you run through that pamphlet right there? And because I kind of cut you off earlier.
Yeah, no, we'll go through it, but I think we will hit most of them.
We did.
They have yours, which is swaps. And that involves in the plastics and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's sustainability with awareness and prevention solutions. So food waste, how to get organized and start your own programs, microplastics, plastic in general.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're the contact on that,
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Yeah. And then we have the Coastal Climate Connections, which is another one. It's like rain barrels, gardens, estuary education.
That's cool stuff. Yeah, that's really
and that's
cool. Sustainability,
Evelyn,
right?
Evelyn
Like,
McQueen. Yeah.
all you preppers out there, if you want to learn how to
Native
survive.
Plant Producer Network. That's pretty cool. Coastal Gyms. Looks like tourism, like kayak based stuff.
So
Plastic.
Yeah. And then the grits, which is what you said earlier about backing the boat down and stuff like
flying
that.
drones, getting your drone license.
Yeah.
Plastic.
Mississippi Master Natural.
Right. It's
Naturalist.
everything.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is this looks like more fishing, right? Learn about the maintaining management of
Master
wildlife. Yeah.
Yeah, you basically learn about the ecology of Mississippi.
That's awesome.
It's a great program.
That's
yeah.
Awesome. Why is Mississippi State so involved in all that kind of stuff? They're from Starkville.
Like we're awesome.
Okay. yeah. That's a good answer. That's a great answer. But because
kudos
to them.
We have the Coastal Research Extension Center, and it allows us to be down here on the coast. It allows the extension to have students down here, to have people that are focused on coastal issues.
Okay. Well, I mean, kudos to the university for caring about that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you're at state and you're in any of these programs, you can come down there.
Well, you would have to talk to my boss, right? We offer internships, limited internships, but if you're interested in like GIS mapping or environmental engineering or things like that, design, landscape architecture, plants, ecology issues, you can contact Dr. Eric Sparks at the Coastal Research Extension Center and see if there's an opportunity for you to come down and study.
That'd be killer for any coast kid down there.
Yeah, if you want to get involved and start learning about stuff like that, how you can make a change.
Instead of going hang out with all them cows up there in Stark Vegas.
Yeah, come down here and learn some coastal stuff, some ecology stuff.
Yeah, get out on the boats.
I love it. I love all these episodes that we do, whether it's DMR, whether it's y'all, whether it's USM Coastal Research Lab. Like it's such a big part of the heritage of what it means to live down on the coast, and it applies science, knowledge, learning to try to make this area, the world, but specifically this area, the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and all the coastal regions, a better place to live.
This is such an amazing place.
Ain't it though?
It really is.
Yeah.
Like there's no place like this.
Right.
Just our access to the water and the food,
the seafood, and the culture. I know, it's crazy.
And I would hope that people would respect that and revere it in a positive way.
You've been here 11 years, you told us. Where were you at? Where are you born from? Where are you born at?
I was born in Colorado Springs at the Air Force Academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this home for you now?
No.
Okay. All right.
Go back to Colorado.
Respect.
No. So I've lived all over. My dad flew B-52s during the Cold War, and so he was doing those 24-hour flights with the nukes. So we lived in Minot.
Okay.
He's retired.
Is he still alive?
Yes.
I'd love to talk to him. That's the shit.
Careful. Careful.
Yeah.
You've talked to me. It's like,
is he like?
Imagine the old
right. The old man version of you.
It's the meme. You either got to get, once you get 40, you either got well versed in World War II or smoking meats.
That's right. That's where my brain goes to hear that, because I've read about, not specifically that, but like the 24-hour B-52 runs. The NORAD stuff and the air defense. That's amazing.
My uncle worked for NORAD. My grandpa and my father flew in Vietnam at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm from.
We could instantly turn this into a history war podcast, and I would have no qualms about it.
We went to Colorado 3 summers ago. We drove right by going to, I guess, I don't know where was that. We drove right by it, and they got hang gliders and planes landing all over the place. People parachuting. I was like,
Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
So I only lived there for about 2 years. That's why my accent's all mixed up, because then we lived in North Dakota. I lived in 2 places in California, then moved to Illinois. Then I went to college at ASU and decided I wanted to graduate from
Arizona
college.
State. Okay.
So I left.
Because here's how my brain.
State.
Here's what I'm hearing: cold. Arizona hot, Mississippi super hot. How the hell are you dealing with that?
No. I lived in New Mexico for 13 years.
So you were ready to go. Well, that's dry heat though. How is this?
Right. I'm used to it now. It's like a sauna. It's free sauna. People pay a ton of money for this. You go to some place that doesn't have this level of humidity, and they pay money to sit in humidity. Like it's so good for like the sweating around your organs.
Why are we not charging for this?
I don't know.
My point exactly.
Hey, that's what I'm gonna start doing instead of charter boat fishing.
Just build a box.
Sauna. I'm just gonna let it. Here we go.
But
Deer Island sauna session.
Instead of a box, like a wooden box, and with you pour the water on the rocks and it steams, you just take them out there and we just stand in the sun. No, you just stand in the sun, and they're like, "What am I paying for?" You're like, "No, this is sauna. Don't worry about it."
It's artisanal.
Yeah, give it an hour.
It's artisanal. So I went to school in Western Massachusetts at Amherst, and then I lived in the south end of Bridgeport after grad school, and then I moved here.
Okay.
So, I traveled.
We're glad to have you. And thank you for doing the Lord's work down here on the coast.
And I'm glad we finally broke the ice with y'all. We're trying to get y'all on, and finally we got you to come in, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun chat.
Contact us because we have so many good programs.
That's the question. So again, I linked the Facebook page in the comments, and it went through on Facebook, YouTube, and if you're on Rumble, it's there too. So click that and go talk to them. But if somebody's hearing this, they're interested, they want to be involved, or maybe they want to, do some of the community outreach stuff, or if y'all do classes over the summer or whatever, I want to be an intern, maybe I'm a high school student. What's the best way? Shoot you a message on Facebook?
I'm actually not on social media.
Well, I mean the organization.
Oh yeah. I would look at our website, ccrlab.org, and because you're going to want to get a hold of Dr. Eric Sparks, right?
Okay.
Or anyone listed under the programs if you're interested in a certain
Yeah,
program.
and these programs all have the scan.
The contacts.
Yeah, you can just scan
Where do those hang out normally?
Those hang out in our office. We do outreach and we hand them out to people.
Over on Pops Ferry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we swing through and grab something like that?
Grab a pamphlet?
Yeah, just if you come over, I can try to get some in the front lobby.
Okay.
But the woman that runs the show at our building,
Okay.
she can call pretty much any of us down if somebody comes by and they're not in
Sweet.
the front.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Or shoot us a message. We're juiced in now.
Yeah. We can get you a pamphlet. We can get you a pamphlet.
So, well, we appreciate you stopping by. It was a great conversation. It's scary, but it's also
It is.
we need to know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to. No one here wants to ruin the environment. No one in our community. We talk about it all the time with fishing regulations and catch limits and size limits. Like there's always this give and take of the angler wanting to be able to want to keep more, bring home more fish. But we want to follow the regulations. We want to preserve the environment. We want to preserve the estuaries and the fish stock. Same thing with when it comes to pollution or plastics or whatever. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think the first step is education and awareness, because you don't realize.
Yeah.
Right? If I go to a beach on Front Beach in Biloxi or Ship Island or whatever, and I look around, I'm like, there's no plastics here. There's no bottles. We're doing good. But you're saying it's a little different than that, right?
Oh, it's way different than that.
Yeah.
I encourage you to look at the rack lines and see it's usually about 1/8 styrofoam, if not more.
Okay.
Right? Look at the rack line. Look at all the start looking at the tiny plastics.
And rack line, you're talking about where the waves hit the beach.
Yeah, the high tide.
Yeah.
The high tide line. Right. And you talk about wanting to make sure that there's fish to fish, right? Well, plastic is an endocrine disruptor. And so we're altering the way that fish reproduce. We're altering, we're seeing that already.
Right.
So I just want people to be aware. It's terrifying. I've been down this dark rabbit hole, but you just got to do the best that you can. And once you have that knowledge and once you are aware, then
small changes
make a better choice.
Yes,
exactly.
And if a bunch of us make small changes, we can move the needle.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again. We appreciate your time and coming by. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
We want to thank everybody watching the lives and the replays, man. Download the Brownwater Banter app. Stay up to date with everything we're doing. Every time we have a guest in here, we send out Joey. We talked about it before we went live.
Message.
We send out the notifications. So if you have the app, keep the notifications on. We don't spam, but you can know what we're doing. You can listen to all of our episodes, watch all of our episodes right inside of the app. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up over the summer, a lot of cool guests lined up. So just, stay in our little universe there. We appreciate the support. And if